Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
She would proceed to insult the workers. I always felt so ashamed that I could never look anyone in the eye. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Children of a Karen, what is it like?
Number 1.
Commenter. My mom is a reformed Karen. When I was a kid, she used to treat people in customer service like trash. When I was a teenager and in customer service positions, it finally dawned on her what a terrible human being she was being. She's turned around and been great ever since. I'm proud of her to recognize her faults and fix them. Person B. My mother too. It's a shame it took having to see their own kid in that role for them to understand that people are just people doing their jobs. But the point is they did eventually learn and are better people. Person C. Same with my mom. I started working retail and telling her stories of people yelling at me, and she hated that people would yell at me, so she stopped yelling at customer service people.
Number 2.
When I was a child, everything was someone else's fault. We'd speak to managers in stores/restaurants/ etc. When I came of age, I joined the military and moved away as fast as possible. As an adult, my relationship with her was terrible. I was so frustrated by her asking me to come back to visit her area every time we talked, that I just stopped talking to her. Something particularly interesting happened this past year. I went home to see my grandma on Dad's side as she was passing. I called my mom and told her I was taking an emergency trip and would be in the area but wouldn't have time to see her. Her response? That's fine, I understand your family needs you. I was beside myself. I had known that she was working on herself for a while, but living so far away and speaking so little, I hadn't witnessed it. 5 years ago, she would have demanded that I leave my dying grandma to come see her. I came back to the area the next month and we discussed it more. She said that she realized that a lot of problems in her life and a lot of the unhappiness stems from selfishness. I am incredibly proud of the changes she's made in her life. And it has forced me to reevaluate my own actions pertaining to our strained relationship and my life as a whole. And I've come to a conclusion. I'm just like her.
Number 3.
Commenter. My dad is a male Karen. I always hated listening to him call customer service on the phone, because he's such a complete asshole to whoever is just trying to do their job. Person B. I honestly think male Karens are worse, because they don't seem to understand how being loud and angry as a guy can be really frightening for some people. They're also more likely to actually get violent or start screaming. Person C. My dad was the same way. Complete shit to any worker who said something he didn't want. I remember him knocking over displays just for a laugh. Person D. I get this. Haven't had a relationship with my father for 9 years, and 4 months ago I found myself in the town he lives in. After being there for 10 minutes, the Domino's delivery driver shows up and he loses his shit on her for no reason. She explained she was late because someone hit her car, and I personally pulled her aside to apologize. Threw me right back into my past, never want to deal with that again. Person E. You just made me realize my dad is also a male Karen. For example, on the phone the other day, he told my sister to write a letter to the corporate office of some restaurant chain because her order was slightly wrong and demanded a refund. He also said it with such anger and fury that would be more suited to a commander yelling at his soldiers to get their shit together in the middle of a war zone.
Number 4.
Commenter. Frankly, it's embarrassing. You have to sit there while they shriek at a manager and cause a big scene. If you try to chime in, you get yelled at, then they are in a bad mood the rest of the day. I've sat through hour-long debates with managers over 11 cents disparity on a bill. Everyone is looking at you and you are just kind of trapped there. Person B. Restaurants, stores especially, or anywhere else we went, there were long, loud debates with managers. Everyone is looking and you're trapped. Thankfully, as I got older, I would retreat to the car. It is humiliating. Person C. This reminds me of my parents. They argued and made a scene in public that setting an upper age limit for a child buffet was age discrimination, and then I got yelled at for not saying that I wanted the child's buffet. I did say child's buffet, but the poor server did only her job correctly and rung it up as a normal buffet. Now as an adult, I do recognize that I have some Karen moments that I'm not proud of. But they're rare and mostly surface after all normal attempts at obtaining proper resolution fails. The most recent instance I can think of was when I snapped at a store manager at a local warehouse club because their fuel pumps refused to accept credit cards at the terminal. Since they were so poorly maintained, they couldn't read any card that was inserted. This was after filing numerous complaints over a span of months, and recording and submitting videos that would demonstrate that it would take up to 6 to 7 minutes of attempts for the fuel pump to accept the credit card, brand new card BTW. The pumps finally work now at least.
Number 5.
When my siblings and I were younger, she was great, but she's become more insufferable as she's gotten older. She has two voices, a talking to us voice and a talking to other people voice. Her other people voice is very serial killer-like. She tells us not to shop at certain stores or stay at certain types of hotels when we travel because they are ghetto. She is never ever wrong. For anything. Even when I tear an argument of hers to shreds, she makes me apologize. I've never received an apology from her in my life, even when she screamed in my face for absolutely no reason. She's not exactly the let me speak to your manager type, but she will leave crappy reviews on Google or Facebook if she doesn't like the service. Speaking of which, she is the queen of Facebook. The first couple months of the pandemic she wouldn't stop posting about how we all need to go back to living. Now that the protests have started, she's been ranting about how she didn't sit in the house for 2 months for it to be ruined by protesters. I've had to learn to just ignore it and be thankful I don't live with her anymore. It may also be worth mentioning my mom is a second-generation Karen. My grandma is the literal textbook definition of Karen. She's almost 80 years old and I still can't go to restaurants with her because I never know what she's going to say or do. My generation's Karen seems to be my brother. However, my fiancé already knows that if I ever start showing any traits of Karen then he is to immediately put me out of my misery.
Number 6.
My parents are lovely people on the whole, but they are unbelievably entitled when they go to restaurants. I spoke up about it every time and they'd brush it off. Such behaviors include: when there's a clear wait to be seated situation, they'll just walk in and sit down at any table, even if it's unbussed. They will get multiple drinks, beer, soda, water with lemon, coffee. Really anything refillable. Ask questions a normal waiter doesn't have the answers to, like what's the rent here or what's the history of the building. I stopped going to restaurants with them a couple of years ago. Even a free meal isn't worth the frustration.
Number 7.
It was humiliating. My mother treated everyone in the service industry as if they were idiot peasants placed there to serve her exclusively. However, she usually never brought her children out in public, so I was spared the majority of her behavior. She has always looked shockingly young for her age, and it always seemed like she had kids really young, so that was a part of it. The other part was that she hated how I looked. We're an Asian family and I was always overweight, a complete taboo for women. She would comment about my appearance to every single stranger she could. Doctors, Target employees, other kids, etc. Whenever she was forced to buy me clothing, she would comment to every worker how nothing looked good on me because I was ugly and fat. Then she would proceed to insult the workers. I always felt so ashamed by both actions that I could never look anyone in the eye. I could feel their pity radiating out and it was humiliating. I didn't want anyone to feel bad for me. I didn't want their damn sympathy. I didn't want to be a major point of ridicule. It has led to a lifetime of having too much pride. It's hard to laugh at myself now and I take myself way too seriously. I struggle to act less serious, but I spent so much time being laughed at. I can't take it and I hate it when anyone talks shit about anyone, even if they deserve it. I have openly refused to trash talk a non-public figure for a long time. It's always toxic, especially if you wouldn't say it to their face. My mother would also use her first language to openly insult people all the time. She bled entitlement. It was horrific.
Number 8.
I have no idea who is worse between my father, my mother, my oldest sister and my older sister. Dad will belittle anyone who crosses him, demanding to speak to managers, threatening litigation, calls to authorities, etc. He is always concerned that somebody is out to get him and is extremely cautious of scammers. Door-to-door solicitors or people calling are in for a treat if they are sorry enough to get him. Customer representatives over the phone have no idea how to manage him. He is surprisingly very nice when things are going smooth though. Mom is a textbook restaurant Karen. She is fortunately nice about it, but will request changes, comments on everything, etc. But she is impossible to please. I get it when I do anything for her. Oldest sister has my dad's temper and my mom's demands, without either of their niceness. Plus she is well married so she is insanely entitled. Older sister is just temper, will just yell at people. They are my family and I love them, but I hate it when I see any of their awful ways in me. Hopefully Karen shaming will get them soon and they understand the wrong of their ways.
Number 9.
My mom is a Karen to service people sometimes. She can range from mildly rude to a total monster at times. I used to make excuses, like one time when she worked as a realtor and in the middle of buying something retail, stepped away a bit to take a phone call. The lady had this obvious "are you kidding" that couldn't wait another minute to finish this kinda expression. I tried to smooth it over like "oh sorry, she's at work always even when she's not at work" kinda thing. Lady responded "it's still rude," and TBH that was the first moment I realized yeah, my mom is rude. Now if she's unreasonable I straight up tell her off. Usually ends in the two of us fighting and me apologizing to whoever just got yelled at. The worst was after my grandma died, she took her feelings out on everyone. After her being rude to a waitress for no reason, my brother told me to ease up since she just lost her mom. I replied, every one of us here just lost a person we love, but they give her no right to treat others like crap. Especially for no reason.
Number 10.
My mom was slowly treading down the path to parenthood. I would just hang my head and be embarrassed, but I didn't really know why it was so wrong. Well, a few years in retail fixed that right the F up. So when that shit started up again I calmly explained that she's getting pissy at the wrong person and has to follow the same rules everyone else does. She shouldn't expect special treatment just because she's angry. Fortunately, she took the road less traveled and made an effort to be more understanding and calm.
Number 11.
Effing terrible. She would yell at any person trying to help her if they said anything she just didn't like or agree with. Not only do I have anxiety from all that horse shit, but I also now go out of my way to be nice to anyone providing me a service as much as I can. I also make it my mission to make them laugh so they can be comfortable. My husband and I like to trade stories of when we can get people to smile or laugh. One time that sticks with me is when my couch was being delivered by Macy's. I was just in the living room doing my usual shit of saying funny things and just being my weird self trying to make the two guys comfortable in my home. One of the guys stopped as he was cleaning up all the plastic that the couch was wrapped in and said to me, "Thank you for being so nice. Most people don't even look at us." I was floored. Not for the compliment, but that people would treat another human being that way. Just terrible. Also, shout out to my dad for always teaching me to be kind. My husband and I once took him out to Outback Steakhouse for his birthday, and when the waiter came to take our order my dad insisted he sit down in the booth next to him because he didn't think he should have to stand to wait on us. I know that's where I get my kookiness from, but I love it. Being kind takes no effort. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.